Let me ask you a question. How long will you continue to let life define you as the victim? How many nights will you sit in silence, carrying chains that you were never meant to wear? And how long will you keep surrendering your power to the very things that broke you? Kiddo, stop right now. Because you were not created to bow down to pain, fear, or the judgment of others. You were created to rise, to stand, to reclaim what was stolen, and to walk with the strength that has always been inside of you. Listen to me. Every scar you carry, every tear you've shed is not a mark of defeat. It is a mark of survival, and survival is proof of power. But hear this, surviving is not enough. You must rise from survival into strength, from pain into purpose, from victim into victor. Tell me this, why do you keep letting other people's words echo louder than your own? Why do you hand over the microphone of your life to voices that were never meant to sing your song? Some of you right now are living inside a prison built from opinions, judgments, and labels that others slapped on you. You've been called weak, broken, not enough, and the tragedy is you started to believe them. But let me shake you awake. The moment you believe their lies, you silence your own truth. And when you silence your truth, you forfeit your power. Think of it like this. Imagine a lion raised inside a circus cage, whipped into obedience until it forgets the sound of its own roar. The world claps, the trainer smiles, but the lion has forgotten. It was born to rule the wilderness. That is what happens when you keep surrendering your voice to others. But here's the twist. A day comes when even the lion remembers. A day comes when deep in the pit of its soul, the roar cannot be caged any longer. And I tell you, your day is here. You cannot wait for someone to clap for you, to approve of you, to write the script of your destiny. If you do, you will spend your life as an actor in someone else's story, always playing the role of the victim, never the hero. The power of your voice is the power of choice, and every time you speak your truth, even if your voice trembles, you take back ground that was stolen from you. Think about Moses standing before Pharaoh, a man who said he wasn't eloquent enough, not confident enough, but God still gave him a voice that shook nations. That same courage rests in you. And every time you use it, chains begin to fall, not only off you, but off everyone who dares to listen. So I ask again, how long will you let others dictate your worth? How long will you let silence rob you of destiny? Your roar has been waiting. Your voice has been hidden under fear and shame for too long, but the world is waiting to hear it. And when you finally release it, nothing will ever be the same again. How many times will you keep pressing play on the same painful memory? As if the wound wasn't deep enough the first time? How long will you keep telling the story of who hurt you, what they did, and how it broke you until the very telling becomes another chain around your neck? Let me tell you the truth you don't want to face. Every time you replay the story of your suffering, you breathe life back into your pain. Every time you rehearse the betrayal, the failure, the loss, you bleed again from a wound that was trying to heal. And the longer you tell it, the deeper the roots of bitterness dig into your soul. But here's the cliffhanger. What if I told you your story is powerful, but not in the way you've been telling it? What if the very pain that crushed you is the same pain that can set someone else free, but only when you shift the narrative? Think of Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, forgotten in a dungeon. He had every reason to spend his life cursing his past, repeating the betrayal, and blaming the ones who wronged him. But Joseph refused to keep replaying the story of the pit. Instead, he spoke the story of the palace. What you meant for evil, God turned for good. And because he chose not to remain the victim of his past, he rose to a destiny that saved a nation. Now I ask you, what is the story you've been replaying? Is it keeping you chained to yesterday, or is it propelling you toward tomorrow? Your suffering was real, yes, but you must decide if it will be the final chapter or the opening scene of your redemption. If you keep rehearsing the pain, you relive the prison, but if you rewrite the script, you discover the power. And here's the secret, The moment you decide to stop rehearsing your wounds and start declaring your victory, your life shifts. Chains break, hope rises. The very thing that tried to bury you becomes the seed that makes you grow. So I'll ask you one last time, will you keep replaying the story that shackles you? Or will you rise and write the story that frees you? The choice is in your hands. Do you realize that the most dangerous lie the enemy whispers is this? You have no control. You are powerless. You are a prisoner of what was done to you. And how many of us have believed it, blaming our past, our parents, our enemies, or circumstances until our lives became a museum of excuses instead of a testimony of power? But here is the truth that shakes the ground. Responsibility is not the weight that crushes you. It is the key that frees you. The moment you decide, I cannot change what was done, but I will choose how I rise from it, is the moment the chains begin to crack. But here's the tension. You can either keep pointing fingers, or you can lift your hands and grab hold of the life still waiting for you. Think about the prodigal son. He wasted everything, lived recklessly, ended up feeding pigs, and he could have stayed there, blaming the famine, blaming his so-called friends, blaming his own foolishness. But the story shifts when he takes responsibility. Scripture says he came to himself. That moment when he decided to stand up to walk back home, to own his choices, was the very moment his restoration began. And isn't that the same with us? We stay in the mud longer than we need to because we are too proud or too afraid to say, "'Tis is my life, and I will take it back when..." Responsibility is not about taking the blame for what others did. It is about taking ownership of what you will do next. And here's the cliffhanger. What could happen in your life if you stopped waiting for apologies that may never come, stopped expecting rescue from people who may never return, and instead took responsibility for your healing, your growth, your destiny? I tell you, mountains would move, doors would open. The very ground that once held you down would become the platform that lifts you higher. So let me ask you directly, are you willing to step into that kind of power? Or will you keep rehearsing the same excuses until your life runs out of time? The choice is before you now, and if you dare to take responsibility, not even hell itself can stop what is about to unfold in your life. Let me ask you a question that may sting. When was the last time you stood tall, not just with your back straight, but with your soul unbending? How many times have you lowered your head, shrunk your shoulders, or silenced your truth just to be accepted by people who were never meant to define you? Hear me, dignity is not in what others call you. It is in how you carry yourself when the world tries to strip you bare. There is a kind of power that comes from refusing to bow, even when the storm howls, even when critics laugh, even when fear whispers in your ear. Think of Daniel taken into captivity, offered the king's food, pressured to conform, but he stood tall. He refused to defile his spirit, and because of that quiet, unshakable dignity, he walked with lions and came out without a scratch. That is what happens when you decide, I will not bend, I will not bow, I will not let the world steal my crown. But here comes the deeper truth, dignity alone is not enough. Because standing tall without love can make you hard, bitter, unapproachable. That is why the next step is this: rise with love. And I know some of you flinch when you hear that word because love is the very thing that got you hurt. But let me reveal the secret. Real love does not weaken you, it empowers you. Real love is not naive, it is not blind, it is the force that frees you from hatred, and without it, your so-called strength will corrode into pride. Think of Jesus on the cross, beaten, mocked, betrayed, yet still whispering, "Father, forgive them." That was not weakness, that was power clothed in love, and that same power is available to you. Imagine what could happen if you stood tall in dignity and rose in love. Your enemies would lose their grip. Your scars would become testimonies. Your life would shine so bright that darkness would scatter. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you ready to rise? Not just strong, but strong with love, unbreakable yet unbitter, powerful yet merciful? Because when you do, your life will no longer just survive the fire. It will light the fire that others will follow. And so I say to you, no more shrinking, no more begging, no more blaming. Today is the day you take back your crown. Today is the day you remind the world that you were never a victim. You were always a warrior in disguise. So rise, child of strength. Rise with the authority of one who knows their power. Rise and speak your truth until your soul shakes the heavens. Because when you rise, you do not rise alone. You lift others, you shine light, you break chains, and when you take back your power, the world will never be the same.